Have you ever sat alone at night, reflecting on yet another failed connection, wondering why the people who seem drawn to you are never quite right? You tell yourself you're open to love, to friendship, to meaningful relationships, but somehow what you get feels like a repeat of the same disappointing story. The names and faces change, but the ending remains eerily familiar. The question stirs deep. Why do I keep attracting the wrong people? And is it something I can actually change? This isn't just about romance. It could be toxic friends, manipulative coworkers, or emotionally unavailable partners. You may begin to feel cursed, like some invisible force is drawing in the exact kind of energy you're trying to avoid. But here's the truth. It's not bad luck. It's not the universe playing a cruel trick. It's something far more subtle and far more within your control than you might think. To understand why you attract the wrong people, you have to step back from the surface and dive into the core of how we relate to the world. Attraction isn't random. It isn't simply about looks, charisma, or compatibility on paper. It's about emotional patterns, energies, beliefs. It's the inner script we carry, often subconsciously, that decides who we let in and who feels drawn to us in the first place. You see, we don't attract what we want. We attract what we are. Not in the literal sense, not in the you get what you deserve way, but in the energetic and emotional sense, we act like magnets, broadcasting a signal based on our internal state. And that signal, our self-worth, our unresolved wounds, our boundaries, our needs, speaks louder than any words we say. If deep down you believe that you are not worthy of love unless you prove your value, then you'll likely attract people who make you feel like you're constantly auditioning for affection. If part of you is still wounded from past abandonment, you might find yourself drawn to people who are emotionally unavailable, because that energy is familiar. It feels like home, even if it hurts. And that's the paradox. We are drawn not to what is good for us, but to what is familiar. Even if what is familiar is dysfunction. Our subconscious seeks patterns that feel safe, not because they are healthy, but because they are known. The unknown, even if it's kind, nurturing, and stable, can feel foreign and untrustworthy. So we unconsciously repel the very things we say we want and gravitate toward the patterns we've lived with for years. This is especially true if you've grown up around inconsistent love. If love came with conditions, if it was withheld, used as a weapon, or if you had to earn it by being perfect, pleasing, or useful, then your internal blueprint tells you that love equals struggle, that love equals pain. So when someone comes along who offers you love freely, without conditions, you might not feel chemistry. You might even feel bored. That's not because they're wrong for you. It's because your nervous system doesn't recognize peace as love. It confuses chaos with passion. This is how the cycle continues. You attract what resonates with your current emotional frequency. If that frequency is built on self-doubt, on unworthiness, on fear of abandonment, or fear of being truly seen, then the people who feel right to you will often mirror those beliefs. They will trigger your wounds, not because they're cruel, but because that's what feels emotionally familiar. But here's the empowering part. Once you become aware of this, you can begin to change it, not overnight, not by pretending to be someone you're not, but by slowly, steadily, healing the internal narrative that tells you what kind of love, friendship, or connection you deserve. This means starting with radical honesty, looking at the common denominators in your relationships. Not to blame yourself, but to notice patterns. Maybe you realize that every time someone gets too close, you push them away. Or maybe you chase those who never truly open up to you. Maybe you're always the giver, the fixer, the one who rescues, while silently longing for someone to finally see you. These patterns don't make you flawed, they make you human. They're often born from childhood experiences, from early messages about love, safety, and worth. And until they're acknowledged, they silently run the show. So how do you change it? First, you have to recognize that true transformation doesn't come from changing the kind of people you chase. It comes from changing the kind of energy you emit. That starts with healing, inner work, sitting with your own emotions rather than running from them, learning to self-soothe, reparenting the parts of you that were ignored or criticized, and most importantly, learning to love yourself not for what you do, but for who you are. Because the more you accept yourself, the less you'll tolerate relationships that require you to shrink. The more you value your peace, the less attractive chaos becomes. The more you trust your own voice, the less seductive manipulation feels. This shift happens quietly. You start saying no more often. You stop chasing. You stop explaining yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you. You stop trying to earn love, and you begin to simply allow love, healthy love, to find you. But that can also be a lonely process at first, because as you raise your standards, you'll naturally outgrow the people who were aligned with your old wounds. You might find yourself spending more time alone, sitting with emptiness, craving connection, but unwilling to settle. And that space, that uncomfortable silence, is where real growth happens. It's where you learn to become the kind of person you've been looking for. Not to complete yourself, but to no longer feel incomplete without someone else. That shift is magnetic. Not because it makes you more appealing, but because it makes you more aligned with truth, with integrity, with love that doesn't come at the cost of your sanity. Sometimes we attract the wrong people because they reflect back the parts of ourselves we're still at war with, the parts we've yet to forgive, the needs we've yet to acknowledge. They show up not to ruin us, but to reveal to us what still needs our attention. But once you start healing, something magical happens. You stop confusing attachment with love. You stop craving people who make you feel like you're not enough. You begin to see red flags not as challenges to overcome, but as warnings to walk away. And more importantly, you stop waiting to be chosen because you've finally chosen yourself. And when you do that, you become a filter, a natural boundary. The people who were once drawn to your insecurities no longer find a place to land. The ones who thrived on your need for validation no longer feel welcome. And while it may feel like you're losing people, what you're really doing is creating space for people who are capable of meeting you with the depth, safety, and respect you've always deserved. This journey is not about blame. It's not about labeling others as toxic or seeing yourself as broken. It's about awareness. It's about understanding the emotional algorithms that have been quietly shaping your relationships. And most of all, it's about giving yourself permission to grow beyond them. You don't have to keep living the same story. You don't have to keep attracting pain disguised as love or chaos dressed up as passion. You can break the cycle, not by fixing others, but by becoming whole within yourself. Because when you know who you are, truly deeply, you stop seeking people to fill the gaps. You start seeking people who complement your wholeness. That's when everything begins to shift. You begin to attract people who communicate, who honor your boundaries, who don't see your sensitivity as weakness. People who aren't afraid of intimacy, because they're not afraid of their own shadows, people who've done their own healing or are at least committed to the process. But in order to find those people, you have to become willing to lose the ones who aren't capable of showing up fully. And that's a courageous step. It requires grief, letting go of the fantasy, letting go of potential, letting go of what could have been. If only they were different, if only you were different. But they weren't. And you're not broken. You're evolving. The truth is, you attract what you believe you're worthy of. So if you're tired of attracting the wrong people, stop asking what's wrong with them and start asking what stories you're telling yourself about love, about connection, about your own worth. Because those stories are powerful. They shape your reality. They decide who feels like home and who feels like a threat. So if you want different, you have to become different. Not fake, not forced, but authentic, whole, healed. That kind of energy is rare. But it's also magnetic, and when you live in alignment with your own worth, you no longer settle for anything less in return. Maybe this is your wake-up call, to stop repeating the cycle, to stop calling dysfunction love, to stop dimming your light for people who prefer you small. This is your moment to reclaim your narrative, to realize that the love you've been searching for begins with you. And as you step into that, the wrong people will fall away, not because you pushed them, but because they simply can't breathe in the atmosphere of your healing. And in their place, the right people, the real ones, will begin to arrive, not to complete you, but to walk beside you. And this time, it won't feel like a roller coaster. It'll feel like peace. That's how you know it's right.